Okay. Okay, so here we are in the second week of September for our Monday nights. As I mentioned before, not the cleverest title, but it works, right? You'll never forget when it is. And it's always on Wednesday or Monday night, Wednesday night. Look at, I can't even say that right. Deb, help me today, would you? Keep me on track. I have to be honest, I have been praying about this particular topic for this class since I started thinking about this month. This tonight is meant to be talking about the emotion of isolation. This is a challenge for me, as I suspect it would be really for anybody to teach about how to find freedom from that. With isolation also comes the emotion of loneliness. Now we've got two double whammies. And this, as I gingerly step through this time, I would be nothing but honest with you guys, because I never want to come on here and share something as if I just have all the answers. And this particular topic, I'm just going to say right off the bat, you need the Lord to help you with, period. You don't know the same God I do. We can have a conversation about that, and I can introduce you to him, and he can tenderly love you out of isolation and out of loneliness. That is pretty much, okay, class over, bye. I mean, that's it. That's it. At the end of the day, and yet, if I know Jesus, I've known him for 26 years. And if this was a few months ago, even throughout this last year, several times when I felt lonely, isolated, you had said that to me, I'd be like, we are not friends right now, because you don't know how much I hurt. And I have dear friends who have walked my walk and who felt that. And all you can do is do the first week of Job's friends, right? And shut it and let your friend cry. Let your friend be sad and feel the feelings. And yet there is a portion of isolation and loneliness that is self-inflicted. And I will touch a little bit on that, but I want to air this out so that we are all on the same playing field. Where we are in this journey, we can all feel isolated and alone in a room full of people. No show of hands, but just sort of a hypothetical question. Have you ever been in a place and you were like, there are thousands of people around me and I feel so utterly alone and totally invisible and unseen? I mean, it happens. It really happens. And honestly, that feeling, this is just a funny aside, maybe it's too much information. I started feeling that when I did Young Living events. It's the weirdest thing. I honestly never felt that before until I got with a whole bunch of women and doing all the celebrity, like what you have some sort of colored tag and now you're some celeb. And I'm like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever been a part of. And I've been around celebrities and cut their hair and all that. And that was not a thing, but it's just kind of funny how certain groups breed that frequency. And so when we think about this emotion, you might be asking, well, why are we discussing this at this time? If it was such a difficult topic, Jen Weir, why? That is an excellent question. And I'm like, Lord, couldn't we have picked a different one? However, as I shared, if you're in my oil group, we talked a lot about this the last week of in August. We did the aroma boost and aroma, freedom technique boost, and doing a little short snippet of it. And what I shared was I wanted you guys to get to the place just to cleanse, get out, shake it off, so that you can move into this next month, not September, but the Hebrew month of Elul. This is something that I have followed for quite a long time now. A long time for me, a couple years. And what I have noticed is that just like God has certain fruits and vegetables that are in season, he also has a season to heal and to restore certain areas in our emotions. He also has a time and a season to restore and heal certain areas in our body. And when I say heal, not necessarily if it's under duress, but a time to cleanse it, your liver, a time to fine tune it, your kidneys. Just really considering. And the cool thing about the Hebrew mindset, I'm just barely like a wee lattice or laddie just coming out of it, just so green. So as I talk about it, I'm not well versed in it, but I learned by teaching. So some of you may know more about it than I do, and please feel free to chime in. That's what the chat's for. But as I've discovered this, I'm sorry, somebody asked for something, and okay, live transcript. Sure, all of you guys can have that. Sorry, I was a little distracted by that. As I discovered this seasonal thing that our God does and study these months, it's like, oh my word, everything with him is a cycle. As Westerners think of it all as this linear, like this strand. This over here doesn't matter because that's the past, last December, last January, whatever. And really, it's a cycle. It's like a big circle. And so if we come to this month and we look and see, well, what are the emotions that are meant to be dealt with, that are meant to be healed, cleansed, refined? We come to rejection, which is what we spoke about last week. This week, we have isolation. We'll work on spiritual vision. And so here we are asking the question, how do we heal and deal with loneliness and isolation? This is also a month and a time to fix what's broken. Yes, thank you, Brenda. To everything, there's a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. Absolutely. There's a season. This is a time to fix what's broken. So if you find yourself in a situation where maybe you feel that there's some isolation, or you feel a little extra lonely, then we're going to talk about how you can deal with that. In addition to, obviously, the Lord can heal those deeper things, but there are tangible things I can share with you. Before I share that, and Brenda's on here, so she might actually get a giggle out of this. I need to explain to you guys the difference between a coach and a counselor. And here's why. Sometimes the things that I share are not as fluffy, feel good. Like, oh, I'm so sorry you're lonely. I might be like, listen, go join a gym, go get out with people. I might be more in your face. So a counselor is someone that's going to sit, you're going to discuss your feelings. There's a lot more in depth to it, a lot more sitting, a lot more maybe crying over it. There's more back and forth, maybe dredging up some things in the past. A coach like me, an emotion coach, a life coach, is somebody who's going to maybe do that. But for the most part, I'm going to go, everyone, come on, we have our tools. Let's go. I'm like an in-your-face cheerleader. I'll do it with a smile. And that's tonight. In 2020, millions of people were, I'll use my air quotes, forced to stay inside. I think only a couple of you actually, because you lived in a different country at the time, were actually forced to stay in your place, which is an atrocity. But those of us who were in the United States did not experience that forcing. Those of us who lived on the East Coast maybe had a little taste of it, what with police force all around and asking where we're going. I'm like, I'm going on a walk, bro. And no, thank you, I do not need your mask. We're outside. However, there was this collective feeling of isolation. You read it on social media. You heard it on the news. That's what people talked about. I feel so alone. I feel so isolated. I'm not at work. And they were uncomfortable with it. What I found so interesting is that was a self-inflicted isolation. If you were in the United States, please hear me. there was plenty that we could do. And a lot of people got really super creative. Some of you just ignored it completely. You're my people. I had friends, in fact, I was just speaking to a woman the other day where they didn't want to meet. They weren't sure, they didn't know what was going on. And so they wanted to be respectful. And so she was telling me that they would meet in the parking lot, like at Target or something, roll down the windows and just chat. Like, okay, it was silly. As she looks back, she's like, it was kind of silly, but they didn't want to be alone. They overcame that. They overcame that. The loneliness, the isolation, thinking of fixing what's broken. Ladies, use your tools. Use your tools. I will tell you, your tools are after prayer, journaling, and using your oil simultaneously. But when I talk about journaling, in this portion today, I'm going to talk about praying through journaling. And I know sometimes we have some pushback, like, oh, I don't know where to start. And that I would love if you could choose tonight to set that aside. And even for this week, I'm going to challenge, not challenge. Someone help me come up with a better word than challenge. Because that already, if I say I'm going to challenge you, like, no, you're not. Because
encourage.
What was it?
Encourage.
Encourage. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Yes, Lisa. Oh my gosh, Lisa and Kathy, you guys come up with the same words. Encourage. I'm going to encourage you strongly to journal this week. Prayerfully asking as you journal, first of all, ask yourself the question in your journal, is there a feeling of loneliness in anywhere in me, in my body and in my soul? Is there any feeling of loneliness anywhere in my body or in my soul? And as you journal that out, the question will come. When you ask that question, sit for a minute and then begin to write. Whatever comes in your mind, start writing it out. If you need to tell yourself, I'm going to burn this up when I'm done, then do it. It's not about keeping a finished project or product. It's about getting the pen on the paper, feeling that feeling, right? You know the feeling, right? When you put a pen, I'm getting a little weird and like artsy fartsy on you guys, but listen, when you do that, you know that feeling. There's something that really happens in your soul and your spirit when you get it out on the paper and you can start to see what was in here and it pours out and you all of a sudden will go, I didn't even know that was in me. I didn't know I felt that way. And you keep going. No, Yvonne, I'm so glad you asked that. It's okay to journal and burn. Listen, when we lived in the country, I filled barrels of stuff. I had just left Massachusetts in a huff. I was angry. I would journal it, set that sucker on fire. And here's the thing. I was going to say, I thought Brenda was going to say it's very therapeutic to set things on fire. That's because that's what I was thinking. She has a more a normal thing, right? That too. It's very therapeutic just to get things out on paper, compost it. Sure, you could do that too. But there is something, I don't know, I really enjoy just watching it all just go up. But yes, you don't have to keep it. Getting it out on paper is so powerful because so many people are locked up in their head. Do you remember last week when we shared, if you were here last week, we discussed why essential oils work, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But we talked about when strong experiences happen, when trauma happens, when things of high emotion happen to you, sometimes if it's not dealt with right then, it can get locked down in the downstairs part of our brain. Right? And then especially as kids, you start to learn how to make everybody else around you happy, and you just put that off and move forward. You're just trying to survive. Or if you have kids and you have something traumatic, you're just trying to survive and do the things, it can get locked down. In any case, when you journal and you smell your oils, right? Remember, we talked about when we smell our oils, that unlocks those things that have been stuck there that we might have forgotten about, right? So we do that, we smell our oils. Cedarwood is a great place to start. Peppermint is an amazing one to start with. Lavender. We breathe these in. We start to journal. We ask the question, is there any loneliness on me, in me, stuck in me? Your soul will be so happy to say yes or no, we're all good. Here's something that I want to encourage you to do. If you ask the question, is there any loneliness in me, on me, stuck in whatever, and you hear, no, you're all good, then ask this question. Ask this of your spirit. Remember, you are a spirit, you have a soul, you're in a body. When you acknowledge your spirit and ask this, it will answer you back. Ask this question. Is there someone I know that I can pray for right now who's feeling this way? Is there someone I know who feels isolated, who feels lonely right now?
I would rephrase that, Jen, to who do I know? Because we all know somebody that's feeling like that, you know?
Why would you rephrase that?
Because is there presents the possibility that there isn't. You can get a no out of that. But who is there? You're looking for a positive, it's conscious language. That's why I would rephrase that.
Okay. There you go. You guys can choose to do that. That's a good point. So when you're journaling in that instance, when you hear someone's name, this may be something that you would want to keep. The prayer, I mean. This may not be a journal. Like if you were journaling and just sometimes I have a stack of papers here and I'll just take some papers if I don't think I'm going to keep them. But if you are starting to pray for someone, and you might want to stick that in your Bible, in your planner, in just somewhere where you can keep it. This might be on different papers, is my point. Something that you may want to keep. You might even consider having a prayer journal. That's something that I had for actually quite a long time. And as I say it out loud, I thought, why don't I have that right now? That's weird. I used to keep a little log of people that I was praying for, what I was praying specifically in my Young Living business. I don't really know how to do a Young Living business. I know how to pray for them. That's what I do. So I would write down my leaders' names and just go over, and whatever comes to mind that I think that maybe they would need, I may not even know them. And I do that. Just a thought on that idea. For those of you that hear, yes, there's something, an area that I feel lonely or I'm feeling isolated. The next question to ask is, when was the first time I felt that way? When was the first time I felt that way? From there, this is where we start to say, okay, what oils are going to help me move through this gracefully? The other day I was journaling, and I shared with you guys, I do my morning pages and just start to just sort of a brain dump, right? Just everything I'm thinking about, get it on the paper and then pitch it or whatever. Or I start to pray, okay, Lord, what have we got on on the docket today? I know I've got school, but who needs this, that, or just sort of flesh it out. It doesn't need to stay in my journal. And I started to realize I had some unforgiveness. I thought, oh my, really? Still? I think I tell you guys that every week. Oh, this thing came up and I still have that. And oh my Lord. So I thought, okay, yep, this is not going to stick because I know better. I don't want this to stick. I wrote it out, and then I grabbed my forgiveness and my peace and calming, right? And I was breathing those in, forgiving the person, blessing them, forgiving them, blessing them, right? Back and forth, until I could feel, no, I really felt compassion at that point. Instead of feeling bitter or angry or frustrated, compassion began to well up. And I share that with you so that you understand as you start to journal and maybe things come up that you didn't think an emotion was there, or you had, as you're breathing in your oils, a memory was unlocked, and now you're finding yourself dealing with something that you didn't know was there. Keep pushing through. Dr. Perkis, the one who I trained under for Aroma Freedom Technique, says that emotions are like a wave and you just ride the wave to the end. Growing up in California, I was a huge fan, still am, of the beach and going surfing and boogie boarding and all that. And sometimes it is utterly terrifying to be on that wave. But the cool thing is there's this beach and it has to end. You might get thrown onto the beach and that's no fun. But it does end. Just like the negative emotions as we're walking through them and healing them. They don't end when we don't deal with them and acknowledge them. Tonight if you saw my post on what oils to have, I shared in there to have bergamot. I think I shared joy, if not rose. I know rose was in there. But those two have been so incredible for me, particularly when I have those times and those seasons of just feeling lonely or isolated. Thank you, Brenda, for sharing. Yep, oils are great to unlock the emotions and memories that we've locked down. When we remember, we have the opportunity to shift our emotions to something more positive. Absolutely. You see, in less than 30 seconds, when we smell our oils, it goes into that place in our brain where the memories are stored. As we shared last week, essential oils, let me pause, not just essential oils. Our sense of smell is closely connected to our memories. And aromas and scents, that is what unlocks our memories. Do you guys realize that? When you think about it, and I think I said this on one Monday, forgive me if it's redundant, but when I share oils with people, I'm always like, but don't you just want to feel better? If they don't, I don't really use my oils that much. Like, why? I mean, do you have the Mary Poppins Super Great Life? Because how did that happen? But when you smell your oils, there's something that happens in your limbic system, in your brain, that just unlocks it. Okay, Sherry, I'm going to pause my little talk to talk about Rise Above, and I'm going to say this to you. I've never smelled it. I don't have it. And I need someone who has it to answer Sherry's question. Shoot. And it's funny because I was going to put on my oil this month. I'm like, it's an oil that Young Living has that I've never smelled on account of I didn't go to convention. And I think that was from last year, maybe, or was it this year? I don't remember. Who has Rise Above that can answer Sherry's question? Lisa, thank you.
I would say yes, Sherry. Let me tell you what's in it. It's got Valor, frankincense, bergamot, Dorado Azul, Idaho green fir, cedarwood, cardamom, lavender, and rose, to help create an environment where you can transform negative thoughts into positive and motivating intentions.
Seems
So-
like that is actually the perfect oil for this situation. I'm
Well,
sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think there are better oils. I think like Higher Unity is a better blend to use than that. Any of the spiritual oils. I love Rise Above, but I'm also wondering about wings, roots and wings. You know, if they would be good oils to use for that. Roots to help uproot it and wings to release it.
Okay, Higher Unity has sacred sandalwood, sacred frank, lime, northern lights, black spruce, spearmint, lemon, jasmine, and rose.
I'm just looking at, since I have this little closed captioning, looking at the oils that Lisa just shared.
Sherry, aren't you a Higher Unity fan? Do I remember that correctly? And see, I think it's very personal too. You know, which oil is going to work best for you?
Yeah, I think I only used it a few times when it first came out. But just Rise Above has been sitting next to my bed for a couple months now. And it just, with the whole
Higher
Destiny collection, it's just been speaking to me.
Higher Unity has a really nice price on it too. It's 135.25 P.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a nice price.
I was there, I call that salty, but okay.
But
I
will
was being
tell
kind of
you,
facetious.
I could see those eyeballs. I can
I
see
kinda
those
like-
eyeballs.
It's a nice price.
But
Yeah,
I
Nice
will tell you,
price.
I really like Higher Unity during intense prayer time.
Maybe just smell it from the bottle.
You can smell it from the bottle. You can put one drop in your hand.
you guys are funny. I think it just, like, since Kathy mentioned it, I definitely want to add to that. It's such a personal preference. The fact that Sherry's had it on her nightstand, your side table there for a while, it's sometimes I think the Lord, not sometimes, I know the Lord puts oils right where I need them to be, because it's like, hey, you will probably miss this little signpost I have for you. Here you go. But as different as our DNA is, so is the oil that we need. One of the things I don't want to get hung up on, and I think in those who have used Young Living for a long time, I'll just say for me and the people that I have added to my own personal organization, we got really hung up on what's a good oil for, and then you fill in the blank. And then we start doing that, and then we got our hands smacked by the FDA because we were saying too many things that the oils were good for that we probably had no business saying that. That being said, when I share about emotions, it is so personal, right? I always go back to, okay, how many of you think this smells like cat pee versus how many of you think that it smells like cotton candy? If you don't like cedarwood, guarantee you're like, ew, it smells like cat pee. If you love it, well, maybe it doesn't smell like cotton candy to you, like it does to me, but it smells delicious. So you see, and even though cedarwood, that's one I don't budge very easy on because it is so powerful. Yes, sacred sandalwood and frankincense can do similar, but I've yet to find an oil that's as potent as cedarwood. And it has a much better price point. Yes. Now that is a nice price, right, Lisa? That is a good price. So as you're choosing your oils, as you begin to journal, and you're choosing your oils for the problem or the situation that's coming up, I should say, the negative emotion that you're feeling, I would prayerfully ask which oil is right for me. We play around with our oils a lot in my emotion classes. We even have a day that's designated to playing with your oils. I think in our culture, especially as women, we don't necessarily let ourselves just think and ponder and have some fun and consider. And we can learn more about our oils and the way we respond to them if we would set aside some time and say, like, whatever you have on your desk right now, smell it and ask the question, how does this make me feel? What emotion wells up when I smell this? Okay, back to our journaling. So you've asked the question, when was the first time I felt this way? And then you ask, is this something that is bringing good fruit in my life? This thing. Chances are the answer is going to be no, if it's causing you to feel a negative way. But, and I learned this from my friend Brenda, who's on here, so I have to give credit to whom credit's due. Anytime I have a situation where I'm like, she'll say, where's the fruit in that? Or what's the fruit in that? I don't know, she says it better than that. But it gives you that idea that it's like, wait, this isn't bearing good fruit. If it's not, then why am I allowing this to take up so much room? And ladies, I would encourage you to go back to the videos that I've done about our neighborhood, right? Clearing out the people in your neighborhood, just a mental, because so many times those thoughts come in and they're not even from us. They're not even ours. Family of origin, friends, great-great-grandma, it might be in your DNA, whatever. Start to process that and say, these are not. They're taking up place on my porch when they should be across the street. Something to consider. Keep journaling through it. As you journal this week, keep prayerfully asking the Lord to go in and heal things that are in your DNA, in your cells, to heal that. Pour his anointing oil in you. As I mentioned at the start of this, only God can heal that loneliness and isolation feeling. You know, being a widow now, it's weird because I have 5 kids. And you would think I'm never alone. Why would I ever have that feeling? Maybe, I mean, you probably would figure out like, well, yeah, there's no adult to talk to, but yeah, I have 2 adult kids. And yet there's that feeling of like, I'm all by myself because I'm by myself in the decisions. However, that is a lie from the pit of hell because I'm never alone. I always have God to talk to. And as memey as that sounds, you know, the memes, as stitched on a pillow as that sounds, it's truth. So if you are in a house all by yourself, or you're surrounded with people who don't understand your situation and you're not physically alone, but you feel that way, you're never alone. The word of God says, if you make your bed in the depths of the earth, he is there. If you go on the highest mountain, guess what? He's there too. And I'll finish with this. I was a scuba diver forever before I got married. It was like when I got married, I stopped doing all my adventurous things because my husband's not very adventurous. But I used to go on deep dives. I did not know the Lord. But I would pray, God, don't let me die on this dive because I'm not ready to say yes to you. I mean, how stupid and foolish is that? Thank God. He's like, okay, I'll give you 1 more day. I'll give you 10 more days, apparently. But I would be at 100 feet in the Pacific Ocean, which isn't that far down. But I knew he was there. I know that verse intimately. And I've rock climbed, not real high, not Mount Everest. Like, that's just crazy. But I've rock climbed and I've overlooked valleys. And I'm like, my gosh, he's here too. Even when I didn't know him. And one of the coolest things is when I talk about emotions, you guys, I get to talk about my God. Because without him, I can assure you, there's no way that you're going to be able to fully heal in the way that you need to, so that you can do the things that you were designed to do. And so I guess when it comes to this particular emotion, these emotions, I should say, in this season, as we finish out the summer, stepping into fall, stepping into a new Hebrew season, maybe this is the time for you to sit down with you and your God, you and your Creator, and say, what needs fixing on me? What do you want to do in my body, in my soul, in my spirit, that I don't even know needs to be done? Because wherever you go, He's there. So I just want to encourage you this week, as you journal, ask and be so open to whatever He has. You guys, if God could spare me from my own nonsense and put up with someone like, hey, don't let anything happen on this dive, because I don't want to live your way of life, which sounded super lame as a 22, 23-year-old. But as a 49-year-old, I'm like, what a moron. Oh my gosh, it's like so much better. But if He can do that, surely the way He's guiding you is so sweet and so gentle and so kind. Find Him in that this week. And then next week, when we talk about your spiritual vision and healing that, well, now listen, it's about to get good, don't you think? Okay, are there any questions, comments, ideas, thoughts that came while we are on the recording? You will have a chance, obviously, when we push stop to ask or share.
Two things that I discussed in separate, or heard discussed in separate places, just came together. There was someone shared a story about a little lady that, used to pray for people at church. And a man came to her and he was, I need prayer because the doctors have just diagnosed me with blah, blah, blah. And she said, okay, well, tell me the truth. And he kind of looked at her and he was like, the doctors said they did all these tests. I have blah, blah, blah. And she said, okay, but tell me the truth. And he kind of looked at her funny and he was like, but that's what the doctors are telling me. And she boxed him upside the ears. And she said, tell me the truth. And here's the truth, is the other thing that I was reading that goes with it. A lot of times we are resistant to fully surrendering, to allow the Spirit to go deep inside of us, because we don't want to face what's there, or we may not know what's there, but the truth deep down inside of us is Christ, because that's where He lives. And so when you dive deep, you're just simply looking for a reflection of Him in you. And He may take you to somewhere that says, this part doesn't really look like me, but if you let me, if you surrender that to me, it will look like me. Until one day you're able to look in the mirror, and every time you do, you tell yourself the truth. Christ is in me fully. It is the hope of glory. And that is what I was raised up to be. And that is why I can go forth to other people and heal people and lead people and, teach them, whatever your calling is, and you can fulfill the destiny that you have with full confidence in knowing Christ is in me. And that is the truth when I look in the mirror.
That's good. Thank you, Sherry. That's real good. That is real good.